Oh, this is like the fifth take I've started this episode. If your to-do list keeps growing and you still feel like a failure every night, despite all those ticked boxes, this is the episode that will finally make your day manageable without guilt. 2026 is here, so let's all start the year by stopping busy work from masquerading as real progress. If you're feeling overwhelmed by your endlessly growing to-do list, this is the episode for you. This is episode 73 of The Struggle. Now, here's the problem. Your to-do list keeps growing. You keep adding to it, thinking you can squeeze more and more out of the day. You feel like a failure when there are still unticked boxes at the end of the day. You're adding more and more self-development routines and practices to your already full day, meaning the work you do and the practices you employ are having a minimal effect, if any. You feel shame for resting. You could be doing more, and when you're not, you feel guilt. That's the fundamental issue we're discussing here. Now, if this is ringing true for you so far, please hit subscribe or follow so you don't miss more strategies for feeling productive without burning yourself out. Now, you're not alone. This way of thinking is clearly a recipe for burnout. Most overambitious people fall prey to this way of thinking. The problem is that you're asking all the wrong questions. It's not, how can I do more, or how can I achieve more, or what do I need to do to feel like I've got life all figured out. This mindset insinuates that you aren't worthy now until something happens. And of course, if you feel unworthy, you're going to do everything you can to feel worthy again. But as long as you entertain this mindset, you'll always feel that sense of not being enough. Because it encourages cyclical thinking. You feel not good enough here. You create a solution to solve it. And I'm putting solve in quotes there. You achieve this solution. Then you feel unworthy again, inevitably, and the cycle restarts. This mindset makes burnout inevitable because you'll feel shame for resting. And when resting feels unproductive, you rest a hell of a lot less. The answer isn't doing more, it's developing a better relationship with what you actually are doing. So, here's the framework I use to make burnout far less likely. If you start your day like this, you'll feel far less overwhelmed by how much you have to do, your to-do list will be much shorter, and you'll be more attuned to how you're feeling. So, this is what I want you to do at the start of your day when you're writing down your plan for the day. Start with answering this question. How do you feel? Physically and emotionally. Are you tired, overwhelmed, nervous, sad? It doesn't have to be beautifully written. It's not going to be read by anyone. You're not Ernest Hemingway. So just vomit on the page whatever comes to mind. If you're struggling to find the right emotion, download the How You Feel app for free. Now, I have no affiliation with this app. I just find it extremely useful for this sort of thing. When you download the app, you'll be met with a whole host of various emotions helpfully categorized to help you identify how you feel. The next question to ask yourself is, if I was being the most compassionate I could be towards myself, what would I do today? Now, what's interesting about this question is the answer could mean a whole host of things depending on the context and depending on the individual. Sometimes the obvious answer is true. I need to rest. I need to restore. I need to give myself a break. However, sometimes the opposite is true. Sometimes the answer is I should work out. I should do more. I should do some writing, some washing, some housework, some chores. Being compassionate towards your future self doesn't automatically mean taking a break or resting. It can mean pushing yourself and doing more. It just requires a bit of self-examination. Now, this can be tricky in the beginning because you're rarely going to feel like working out, especially if you're not in the habit of doing so. Now, you're not broken if this is you. Don't feel like you're doing life wrong or there's something inherently wrong with you when you see all those roided up influencers online telling you to get after it and making you feel bad if you're not. Your brain isn't wired to make doing hard things easy. Of course, you're not always going to feel like working out. If I only worked out when I felt like it, I'd barely work out. And so you need to analyze your current state psychologically. Would working out make me feel better? Am I pushing myself for the wrong reasons? Am I trying to prove something to someone else? Am I avoiding my feelings by being busy? If you're being pushed by shame or guilt or comparison, that's not self-compassion and that's not your true self being brought forward. You need to examine whether or not you're emotionally steady, rested, and not pushing yourself to repress feelings. Now, you also need to determine whether pushing yourself is the right move physically, which is easier because that's more objective. Ask yourself, am I well rested? Did I sleep well last night? The answer to the question, should I push myself, lies in that self-awareness and examination. Only when you've taken stock of how you feel physically, emotionally, and psychologically can you answer that question in a self-compassionate manner. Right, next up. Once you've deciphered how you feel and what you feel up to today, it's time to actually decide what you're going to do practically. And that's where Greg McKeown's 1-2-3 framework comes in. Now, I've spoken about this previously in other episodes, but it's just because the framework is so bloody useful. Now, this comes from McKeown's book, Essentialism, and it goes something like this. You write down 1 essential intent for the day. This is one thing that if you got to the end of the day and you only did this one thing, the day would be a success. Now, you remember, your decision should be aligned with how you feel and should be made with the intention of being compassionate towards yourself. So, one thing that would make the day a success. If you're pushing yourself today, it could be working out, it could be taking a walk, it could be getting out of bed and having a shower. There's no wrong answer here. And pushing yourself is pushing yourself, regardless of what that means for you. So try not to relativize what you're doing. What you do with your day shouldn't be decided with what others are doing in mind. This is your life. Now, bearing in mind an essential intent for me is going to work. So that's one thing that must be done most days and makes it the day a success for me. If I don't go to work, then I can't do all these things and I don't make any money and I'd be homeless. So your essential intent should be going to work because that certainly is essential. Now, on the other hand, if this is a day off, for example, this essential intent could be taking a break, doing some self-care if that's what you feel you need. If you were being the most compassionate towards yourself, what would you do here? It could simply be do whatever you want. It could be meditate. It could be see some friends. It could be take a bath. Whatever makes your day a success should be written down here. Now, next, you're writing down 2 should-dos. Now, these are 2 things that should only be completed if you have the time and energy after doing your one essential intent. These are things that need to be done, but they're not completely necessary today. But they will need done at some point. Again, these 2 things should be in line with how you feel. So what are your 2 should-dos? It could be household tasks like the washing or dishes. It could be reply to emails. It could be making appointments. It could be working on a side hustle you're working on. It could be exercise, meditation, taking a nap, planning your week. Whatever you want. The next is 3 nice to haves. Now these are optional, non-essential tasks that would be nice to complete but aren't critical. These are only to be completed once you've completed the first 3 tasks, and if you have the energy and time after completing these 3 tasks. Now, these are non-essential tasks, bearing in mind, that would be nice to do. Things that definitely don't need to be completed today, but would be nice to get done. So for me, it could be hoovering the flat, or it could be changing the bed sheets or trimming my beard. These are things that would be nice to have completed by the end of the day, but if you didn't complete them, it wouldn't be a big deal. Now, I should also add a caveat here. I have altered this framework for myself to become the 1-3-5 method, As my current situation, I find I usually have the time to complete more out of my days. But it also keeps the scope of what I get done restricted, still with that one essential intent if I don't feel like doing too much, but it increases the scope if I do to up to 9 total tasks. So bearing in mind that some of these tasks could take a couple of minutes to complete, like reply to that person or order that thing. The beauty of this framework, that I found anyway, is that my to-do list went from being an unmanageable, disorganized and unprioritized mess to being a simple, clean and prioritized short list of tasks that ease the pressure of trying to do too much, because there's a trigger to indicate that I've completed enough today and I can rest. As much as it would be nice to simply acknowledge that it's time to rest based on how I'm feeling, my brain doesn't work like that, because I've built this habit of being as productive as possible that I'm trying to unravel and keep the good bits, but also be compassionate towards myself. So at least for now, this is a simple trigger that helps me be more self-compassionate towards myself by telling myself that I've done enough for the day, which then triggers more self-awareness of how I'm feeling and whether I should push myself. And so that's the framework to start your day. If you switch from treating yourself like a tyrannical sergeant would, breathing down your neck, adding more and more tasks to your to-do list, if you switch to an encouraging, compassionate coach who understands how you feel and most importantly cares about how you feel, you'll be in a much more productive and self-empathetic place. If you fire the sergeant and hire the compassionate coach, you'll have more time for what and who truly matter. When there's a tyrannical sergeant breathing down your neck, constantly telling you you could do more, how much time are you likely to have for your family, friends, or partner? Whereas a compassionate coach can see clearly how you feel and how you're spending your time and make helpful, productive, and sustainable suggestions so you can better spend your time. That time will be spent in alignment with your higher order goals and your compassion towards yourself. So you've gone from a voluntarily overworked, burnt out, and terminal workhorse to a cured, compassionate, and sustainably productive individual making time for what matters most. The beauty about all of this is it will make you more consistent. Consistency only comes if you're able to keep doing what you want to get done repeatedly, and you're not consistent if you keep burning out. This framework will keep you feeling mentally stable so that you can consistently show up for what matters, be productive, as well as make time for those you love and for yourself. Now, 2026 suddenly looks a lot more compassionate and productive, does it not? If you're tired of the constant stream of unrealistic steroid-fueled discipline that's really just emotional avoidance in disguise, and want some realistic guides towards yourself and a more mindful, meaningful and supported life while still finding room for productivity, then subscribe for more content like this. I talk about how we can all simultaneously be more compassionate towards ourselves and improve our lives. I also speak with a wide range of guests, from world-renowned astrophysicists to best-selling authors to psychotherapists. So subscribe or follow to get closer to who you really are. The answer lies in the struggle. So keep on struggling.